Hi, my name is Matthew Bellisario. Thanks for coming by the BellisarioSonic YouTube channel from the heart of the Deep South on the outskirts of Birmingham, Alabama, where we talk about music, records, do record reviews, interviews, and much more. I do a lot of reviews of modern jazz releases by working artists. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel. You're going to hear about a lot of records you probably won't hear about on other channels. I really spend a lot of time digging through a lot of the modern jazz releases on these small independent labels. That's the kind of music I like to promote. However, today, completely different type of review. I'm going to be taking a look at, we're going to be dropping the needle on the Genesis Nursery Cryme album, the Atlantic 75th Anniversary 2 LP 45 RPM set that was mastered from the original analog tape by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grundman Mastering and pressed at QRP. So we're going to be dropping the needle on this, but not only that, we're going to be doing a shootout because I'm going to be going head-to-head with this 2018 release, EU only pressing, 33 RPM. This was Universal UK release. I believe it's half-speed mastering, which everybody seems to hate, but we're going to see how it stacks up against this. Now, it's not quite a fair comparison since this is a 33 RPM and this is a 45 RPM, but it's going to be worth hearing how much of a difference there actually is. This was the Lacquer cut by Miles Showell, and it was mixed, 2008 mix, and remastered by Nick Davis. So I will be dropping this on first. We're going to be hearing how this sounds. I did make up a new sheet because I figured I need to be a little bit more precise in my record reviews, the gradings. So I kind of put together a sheet, which basically I'll be able to give a full, I put two reviews per sheet. So if I do a shootout, I can compare head to head. But basically, I'm going to be looking at some different categories. So I kind of spent some time figuring out what I wanted to do on each review so that there would be some uniformness to the reviews. I could say, okay, this was a 7 or this was a 6 in this particular category, and maybe give you an overall review score. So I'm going to kind of try this out and see how this works. Basically, the categories I'm going to use is tonal balance. So that's just basically how nice the bass, the mids, the highs all sound uniformly across the recording. I'm going to give it a perspective rating, which will be kind of the distance of the recording from you when you're listening to it, whether it's right up near you or further away. A treble performance, a mid-range performance, and a bass performance. I'll rate how all those sound. I'll talk about detail or clarity. I'll give it a score for that. I'll give it an overall coherence score, which is basically the feeling of the record. How does it make you feel when you listen to it? How does it engage you? I'll give it a warmth score, a depth score, a resonance score, and a dynamic score for how nice you have a lot of changes in dynamics. And that may not necessarily be as meaningful depending on what kind of music we're listening to. So, and then I'll give it an overall score. So, this will give me a little bit more of an objective measuring system in order to be able to compare other records. Okay, this particular record that I did that was a Blue Note, I scored this a 7 on this particular category. This one's a 6 or something like that. So, and when I do SACD head-to-head with a vinyl record, I'll be able to have a better perspective at doing that by having this sheet here that I can go through with you as I listen to these records. So today, though, let's go ahead and clean off this. We're going to start listening to Nursery Cryme. I'm going to give you a brief history of the record, as I always try to do. I spend some time putting together these reviews. I try to give you some pertinent information that relates to the actual album. This right here, this album is a 1971 record. Their third record, so you have their debut record from Genesis to Revelation in 1969. Then you have the Trespass album in 1970. But with this record, you're going to see a change. Lead guitarist Anthony Phillips departs after the Trespass record. The band also loses the drummer John Mayhew, and they basically recruit Phil Collins on drums and vocals, and Steve Hackett as the lead guitar player. So this does change the sound of the band quite drastically, actually. And this album is the first really to reflect that sound change. You're going to hear a little more experimenting on the record. And, of course, the solos by Steve Hackett. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the things that they did on this album. The group worked out much of this music at Charisma owners Tony Stratton Smith's residence at the Luxford House, which is a 16th century building in Crowborough, East Sussex. That's where they worked out a lot of the songs, came up with ideas. They went into Trident Studios in London in August 1971 with John Anthony as their producer and David Henschel as their assistant engineer, and that's where this record was recorded. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the songs and the cover, but I'm going to go ahead and start off by dropping this on. So we're going to just start off and we're going to listen to the musical box, okay, on this record. Then we're going to put the musical box on with the acoustic sounds, and we're going to compare those, and then I'll continue on listening to the rest of a couple of songs off of the acoustic sounds. So let's see how this works here. So this is the musical box. This is the 2018 UK EU pressing. Great progressive rock album.
All your hearts now seem so far from me. It hardly seems to matter now. And the nurse will tell you lies of a kingdom beyond the skies.
Go ahead and open this up and show you this.
I am lost within this half world. It hardly seems to matter.
Atlantic 75th.
Now. Play me my song. Here it comes again. Play me my song. Here it comes again.
Of course, here's the packaging for the 2018. A lot thinner, glossy.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit more time. Time left to live out my life.
So far, a nice sounding record. So the pressing itself is flat. It's been pretty quiet.
play me my song. Play me my song. Here it goes
So I would say it's got decent depth, but it's not the most warmest sounding recording I've ever heard, but it sounds pretty good. So I'm giving it like a 6 on the depth. It's
So he called for his pipe, and he called for his bowl, and he called for his fiddlers 3. The clock tick-tock on the mantelpiece, and I want, and I feel, and I know, and I touch. She's a lady, she's got time. Brush back your hair and let me get to know your face.
So I'm making my marking everything down on the sheet. I will share that with you when the song's over. Then I'm going to put on the other one and we're going to listen to it. I'm going to mark everything down and I'll give you my assessment on the difference in the sound.
Brush back your hair
And this is a good song to do it on because there's a lot of dynamics, different things going on. Comes up, comes down. You got louder sounds, softer sounds. So we'll see.
I've been waiting here for so long, and all this time to pass me by. It doesn't seem to matter now. You stand there with your fixed expression, casting doubt on all I have to say. Why don't you touch me? Touch me. Why don't you touch me? Touch me. Touch me now. 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 Now.
All right, so I'm listening to this through a Fluence RT85 with the Ortofon Blue, going through a Shipmighty preamp, going in through a Pro board into my Yamaha HS8 speakers. So what I'm going to do is share with you now kind of how I graded this. I'm going to pull this off, and I'm going to get this next one up on the turntable. Okay, so this is the Acoustic Sounds. All right, so let me make sure I set that to 45 RPM, and let's talk about how I graded this, okay? Let me know if you guys like this grading system better. I know it's probably going to make the video just a little bit longer than some of the other ones, but so I rated the tonal balance, which was the bass response, mids, treble, how those kind of sounded uniform, and I gave it a 7. It sounded decent, pretty good. You know, I enjoyed how that sounded. The perspective and distance, so how close the recording sounds to you. You know, a lot of that has to do with how they recorded it, so on and so forth, but I gave it a 7 for that. Treble performance, I gave it a 6. I wasn't hearing a lot of high detail. Mid-range performance, I gave it a 7. I think it actually sounds a bit mid-rangey, okay? So I could hear the mids better than I could hear the highs. The bass as well, I gave it a 6. I didn't think the bass cut through that well. I could hear it. It was a decent mix. I gave it a 6. Detail and clarity, I gave it a 6. Sounds pretty good. Nothing so great that it blew me away. The coherence or overall feeling of the record, how it hit me, I gave it a 6. So above average, it sounds good. Warmth, I gave it a 6. Not the warmest recording I've ever heard. It sounds pretty good. Depth, I gave it a 6 as well. You do have some depth with the instruments, but not a ton. You know, it's something that's not really sticking out to me. Resonance of the instruments, in other words, how do they pop off the record? I gave it a 6. I didn't think it was anything spectacular, but good. And then dynamics, I gave it a 7 because you really could hear the details when you get down to the quiet parts and you get up high. I gave it a 7. So there's nothing stellar about this album, but overall rating was a 6.3. So it's above average. I thought it sounded pretty good. So if I had this record, you know, I've had this version for quite a while. I've enjoyed listening to it. Now we're going for the Acoustic Sounds, 45 RPM. We're going to put it on, and I'm going to give it the same rating and score, and I'll give you that after we play this tune. And then we'll go on and listen to a couple of other tracks off of this to close out the video. So let me go ahead and put this other record back into the jacket. All right, into the sleeve here. And then we drop on the Acoustic Sounds. And we're going to listen and see how much of a difference is there. Everything will be played at the same level. Of course, this is at 45 RPM, so let's hear the difference. Much more detail already, I can tell you that.
Give me my song. Here it comes again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much better, I can tell you that. Many categories.
Play me my song. Here it comes again. Play me my song. Here it comes again. his bowl, and he called by his fiddlers 3. The clock tick-tock on the mantelpiece, and I want, and I feel, and I know, and I touch.
Yeah, big improvement. So in pretty much every category.
She's a lady, she's got time.
Vocals sound much better.
Rush back
Detail,
to
much
your
more detail.
and let me
The treble is much better sounding on this.
face.
Bass sounds better. The instruments themselves have more of a natural sound, more
She is
detail.
mine. Oh, brush back your hair and let me get to know your flesh.
What a great prog tune. I mean, just a classic epic 10.5 minutes. Talk a little bit about the song once this is over. A little bit about this crazy cover. Nice. All right. So let me bring this up here. Let's talk a little bit about the differences. So where I thought there were some definite things lacking that I talked about on the first record. So I'll just give you the comparisons. The tonal balance across the spectrum, I thought was about the same. In other words, they were all, the treble, the bass and the mids for the most part were the same. This is a little bit better. I gave it an 8 versus a 7 because you could hear those highs and the basses were a little more pronounced. So the tonal balance was a bit better on this one for sure. The perspective, the distance, how close it sounds to you was improved on this one. I said it was a 7 on the first one. This was an 8. Everything sounded a little bit closer to you. Treble performance, I gave it an 8. Mid-range performance, I gave it an 8. Bass performance, I gave it a 7. Not the most bassy, you know, the sound of the bass is not the best I've ever heard, but it sounded pretty good. So sound staging, I thought improved as well. There was it seemed like there was a bit more space between the instruments on this. So I gave it a 7 rather than a 6. Detail and clarity improved immensely. So on the first record, it was a 6. On this record, it's an 8. It sounded very, very good. The detail was very good. Coherence, which is how the record feels. I gave it a 6 on the first one. This is an 8. I mean, it really is much more impactful on the way that the music hits you. There was more warmth to it. I said it was a 6 on the first record. I gave it a 7 on this one. It was a bit warmer sounding. Depth, it went from a 6. This one was a 7. There was just a bit more depth there. Still not the most warmest or, you know, with the most depth that I've ever heard on a record, but it sounds good. So I gave that a 7. The resonance, so that's what I call the actual, how the instruments pop off the record, so to speak. I thought that they were much improved from a 6 to an 8. In other words, you can really hear not only the detail, but you could just hear that impact, kind of the instruments coming off the record. Much, much, much better. And then the dynamics, which I thought were decent on the first record. You could hear nicely the difference, changes in volumes and things like that. And I gave it a 7, but on this one, I gave this an 8. You could really hear a lot more detail, a lot more of the differences in there, and they were more impactful, if that makes any sense. So while the average of the first one was 6.3, this was a 7.7 in the overall average. So it was a much more improved rating of overall of the record. So hands down, the Acoustic Sounds beats this one by quite a bit. This is just much better sounding record. It's more impactful when you're listening to it. The details are there. As things get quieter and louder, it's much more impactful. So this is definitely the winner for sure. So if you don't have a reissue and you're looking to get one, I would spend the extra money. It's twice as much, but it sounds much better. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to play a couple more tunes. I want to play The Return of the Giant Hogweed, and maybe we'll close out on that. We'll listen to that on, which is going to be track 3 on the album. So let me go ahead and, because I want to try to keep these videos, you know, reasonable in length, trying to keep them to a half hour to 45 minutes. So what I'm going to do, actually, I'll just put on For Absent Friends and then listen to The Return of the Giant Hogweed, which would be on a regular record, the whole first side. Between all 3 of those tunes. There's 6 tunes on the whole record. Let's talk about a couple more trivia things here. The musical box was a piece that described a dark story placed in Victorian Britain about a young boy, Henry, who was accidentally decapitated by his friend Cynthia while playing croquet. Back at the house, Cynthia goes back and plays Henry's old musical box, which unleashes the spirit of Henry, who continually harasses Cynthia. A nurse of hers finally goes in and hurls the music box at the wall, destroying it and getting rid of the spirit of Henry. That's kind of the gist of the story. The group definitely experimented with recording techniques on this record. So the opening section we heard on the musical box features Rutherford and Banks on 12-string guitars. The high-pitched opening you hear on the musical box is a guitar phrase using a very speed technique. So Rutherford's guitar was recorded at half speed, and it played back that sounded higher than it was when it was recorded. Hackett's solos also gave the record a different sound because he experiments with the tapping playing during his solos on the musical box and Return of the Giant Hogweed. The cover here was designed and illustrated by Paul Whitehead, who also designed the cover for Trespass and the album that was to follow this one called Foxtrot. The cover depicts the characters, scenes that were based on the story that we just heard about. And this was the Cox Hill Manor House with a croquet lawn. It was based on a Victorian home Peter Gabriel grew up in. When the group originally saw this painting, they said it didn't look old enough, so he went and varnished it with honey, and that's why it has that look to it. When it was originally released, it startled some because you've got the severed heads on the cover here. So just a little trivia there. Here we go into Giant Hogweed. Yeah, sounds nice. Again, presentation you can't beat. It's the nicest presentation. This jacket. Yeah, sounds really good. Such a great album for prog music. If you love prog music, this is a great album. right, folks, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I got a lot of new reviews coming up, interviews. So if you're watching this, this should be Saturday. So I do these a couple of days ahead and prepare them so I can keep up with everything. Coming up on Sunday, you'll have Simon Bellelti's interview where he talks about his passion for jazz and establishing the JoJo Records label. So please tune in for that. Leave your comments on these interviews. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And a lot more interviews coming up as well. Try to set up some more, and a lot more reviews here. Jazz record reviews coming your way. A lot of new releases that I'm excited about to share with you. This is definitely a hit. This sounds wonderful. Definitely improvement over that 2018 European reissue. I think you're going to be happy with this. So another great job by Acoustic Sounds, the Atlantic 75th. Great series so far. I've really been enjoying it. And this is definitely one I'm happy to add to the collection. So we will see you on the next video. Happy listening to everybody. Take care.